draw in 2 minutes.
What can I draw in 2 minutes? I could draw myself in 2 minutes. I think I did this last year, didn't I? So I can move faster. So I think we have enough time to get through the first act of it, though. It's divided into 5 acts. So what I'm going to do is I will read the section. If there's a choice at that section, you guys can yell out for which choice you want. Often there's not a choice, or there's combat, and I'm just going to assume you win the combat, because otherwise I'd be an asshole. So, I guess let's get to it. One other piece of information. I have some shirts and books. If you want me to sign something, just pull me aside at some point and grab a book and I'll sign for you. And I also have the world's only single-use unlubricated monocle in a packet. Mission for that one. But anyway, I have those for sale as well. It's $5 and they're the dumbest thing in the world. So there we go. Good start. You are 0 years old, suspended in a warm, moist sack. You've been sitting there happy and stupid for, if your marks on the wall are correct, approximately 9 months. Behind you, a slit of unbearable brightness appears. You want to turn away, but an overwhelming sense of purpose and meaningfulness propels you to this mystical opening. In a triumphant burst, you leap headlong into the light. You find yourself in the waiting arms of a physician. Instinctively, you whirl around, knowing that behind you is someone who will love you unconditionally and without hesitation as long as you live. Your vision unblurs and finds a plastic gestation bag, into which a young technician is already squirting a syringe of clone sperm. Your first emotion you feel in life is disappointment. Interestingly, it will also be your last emotion, and about 80% of the emotions in between. 16 years later, it's your birthday. Your entire, all the proper nouns are dirty words in Czech, or Czech in Czech. Your entire life has been spent in the confines of a small space orphanage near Rytniov 4. In the early 28th century, philanthropy briefly became fashionable, during which time there was a shortage of orphans to adopt, hence your existence. Despite being the only child in the orphanage during your cutest years, you were passed over time and time again. Some cited your hair, others your physique, others your conversation. However, when exit surveys were filled out, by far the most common sentiment was simply, yeah. Now that you're 16, you are legally unadoptable. Father Nadezhda dryly notes that you are now unadoptable for 2 reasons, and looks disapprovingly at your eyebrows. As you instinctively cover them, he informs you that you will be sent to the Silene Monastery on Skubnuti Prime. He hands you a strange gold note, which you are not to open. Whether the numbering system would be better, you won't just go from 1 to 2 in the final version. You arrive at the great monastery at Skubnuti. It is a tall tower of black stone covered in shimmering jewels and strange writing. It is funded chiefly by government tax subsidies and by convincing poor people to donate 8% of their income. The Silenes were once the champions of justice and peace in the galaxy, but later, all of their mystical powers were superseded by advances in weapons technology. So now, much of their time is spent in amusing tourists and speaking on behalf of religious candidates for office. At the front gates, you were greeted by a gaunt man in black velvet robes, Master Belmopusek. He looks you over, briefly snarls in disgust at your eyebrows, then indicates for you to enter. You hand him the golden note. He reads it for a minute, looks up, then pokes you in the eye. He observes you stoically as you whine not in the face, then nods his head and writes a few words on your note. You follow him inside, expressing your profound rage with a mumbled threat to write a blog post about this. You spent the last 3 years learning the ways of the Silines. You've learned that there's a mystical energy that surrounds and binds the universe, which can be harnessed to lift shit or shoot lightning. You learned there's a good side of the energy and an evil side. You were informed that the evil side is generally preferable, since the learning process is much shorter, and you gain all your power just by being upset or cowardly. The good side requires rigorous mental and physical discipline to achieve comparable results. Ever since the Silines were utterly marginalized by improvements in technology, both good-siders and bad-siders spend most of their time watching movies and browsing the internet. Now that you're 19, it's time for you to enroll in vocational training on behalf of the Silines. You head to the Silene Monastery's vocational campus. Medic, fighter, or engineer. Rob, do you want to be the tiebreaker?
I'll go with engineer.
Engineer, all right. Engineer 5. What is on 5? So you want to be an engineer. Since you have a deep-seated need for control over your tiny little life, but no pressing desire to finer philosophical notions that underpin reality, you decide to enroll at technical school. Amidst the many glorious obsidian spires spread about the Silene Monastery complex, there is a gray concrete structure that looks like a particularly unpleasant penitentiary. You knock on the door of the engineering department. Instantly, a camera shoots out and looks you over. It looks with approval on your squinting eyes and prominent Adam's apple. The door dilates, and a floating robot leads you to the headmaster. Her small office is festooned with mint-condition action figures in the original packaging. Their yellow plastic casings glitter in the unnuanced light of her desk lamp. Enter, she says in a monotonic nasal beat. You assume she's talking in a funny voice and chuckle. Whoops. Your inelegant attempt to convert your laugh to a cough is noticed, but taken as a sign you'll fit in well at technical school. She hands you a small pistol-shaped object and you ask if it's a soldering gun. Setting 1 is laser pointer, setting 2 is flashlight, setting 3 is soldering gun, heat level 1, setting 3 via self-destruct, setting 3C is soldering gun, heat level 2. Gain alpha rate. Why did you put self-destruct between settings that aren't related, you ask? She glowers at you with special and profound rage, which engineers reserve for people who like intuitive computer interfaces. She picks up limited edition Cybo Staff, trademark, signed by the author of Cybo Wars 1, 4, 5, and 8, and points toward the technical school dormitory. 5 years later, not counting the year you spent in China, which you claimed was for research and cultural exchange, but which was actually a thinly veiled unsuccessful plan to get an Asian girlfriend, you are near graduation. Although your main activities were masturbation, sleep, and sleep starvation, you have learned quite a bit, and you've gained some notoriety in your field for inventing sleep starvation. But you're not an engineer yet. Today is final exam day. Because you spent the last night with your friends drinking, playing video games, and talking about how glad you were not to be tied down to a long-term relationship, you were in very bad shape. Panic begins to set in. The time for smart plans has passed. If you decide to kill your professor and take his brain, go to 10. If you go to the cybrary to download downbrain, as much information as possible, go to 9.
Kill your professor.
All right, 10. Oh, fun murder.